Members, next item on our agenda is House File 3671. So Chair Pinto, when you get settled in, you can move your bill.
Thank you so much. And members, this was not the next bill on the agenda, but I was taking chair's prerogative to get a couple testifiers out of here. And so thanks for your flexibility. I move House File 3671 for re-referral to the Public Safety, Finance, and Policy Committee. Happy to explain that further. And I do have an amendment, the DE2, which I wish to move at this time, Madam Chair.
All right. Chair Pinto moves that House File 3671 be re-referred to the Public Safety Committee. So Chair Pinto, you can explain your amendment.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and then I moved the DE2 amendment as well. And members, this amendment, let me think. Maybe what I'll do is just briefly explain the bill. So the bill changes the age at which children who commit what would otherwise be crimes be sent to the delinquency system as opposed to the child protection system. The age right now is age 10. It would change the age to 13, consistent with other states. What the amendment would do, and we can talk further about that in a bit, what the amendment does is structure statutes to affect that a little bit better. Our terrific staff, led by Ms. Sunderman, worked on that, but also crucially has a delay in the effective date of several years. There's a lot of complexities with making this happen, and directs our commissioners of several agencies, that's on the last page, to work with stakeholders to basically ensure that we have a good process to make this happen. There are a lot of complexities we'll talk about, and so want to make sure we're doing this right. And so that is the purpose of the DE2 amendment. And I'd ask members' support to advance that.
Any discussion to the DE2 members? All right. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right. The amendment is adopted. And so Chair Pinto, to the bill and your testifiers.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll ask my testifiers to come on up if you can. And I think, members, I've probably provided enough of an orientation for now. I think I'll have the testifiers speak and then provide a few more thoughts.
Good.
Okay. And I think there are some handouts, Chair, that the page has, and so if we can ask that they be distributed as well, that'd be great.
Wonderful. Welcome to the committee. I have Kaylin Steele and Sarah Davis on the list. So please introduce yourself for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Hello, my name is Kaylin Steele, and I'm here on behalf of the Legal Rights Center and our partners in the Minnesota Coalition for Youth Justice to testify in strong support for House File 3671. I urge this committee to vote in favor of raising the lower age of juvenile court jurisdiction from 10 to 13. Raising the lower age is a fundamental step towards fostering the needs of young people in a more compassionate and effective way. When we confine children as young as 10 in the legal system, we not only subject them to trauma, but also risk perpetuating cycles of incarceration. At the age of 10, children are still in critical stages of development, both emotionally and mentally. They require nurturing, support, and guidance from families, school, and their communities to navigate the complexities of growing up. Placing them in the juvenile court system not only disrupts this crucial support network, but exposes them to the harsh realities of legal proceedings while reinforcing the false notion that punishment encourages changed behavior. The journey of discerning the difference between right and wrong is a gradual and intricate process that cannot be attained overnight. It requires an ample amount of patience, grace, opportunity, and space to learn, evolve, and make sound decisions. Each one of us has a story of our 10-year-old selves where we acted impulsively based on our emotions. At that time, we may not have been aware of the full ramifications of our actions, but with the passage of time and self-reflection, we eventually arrive at an understanding of the impact of our past decisions. Furthermore, research shows that arresting, prosecuting, and punishing children in the legal system leads to significant trauma, amplifies existing vulnerabilities, and hinders their ability to lead a fulfilling life. By raising the lower age, we signal our commitment to prioritizing support and intervention over punishment. And in all, supporting House File 3671 is not just about changing a law, but recognizing the inherent dignity and potential of every child and ensuring that they have proper resources to grow and thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Steele. Next, we have Sarah Davis. You can introduce yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, Chair and members. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning with you. My name is Sarah Davis. I'm with the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, where I serve as the Director of our Children and Families Division. I'm here today to speak in support of this important legislation. This is a critically important change to align our systemic response to youth and families with scientific research, best practices, and international standards. There's three critical problems with our current system of bringing children ages 10 through 12 into the juvenile delinquency system. First, it's ineffective. Second, it doesn't align with developmental science. And third, it fails to address concerns in the context of the broader family. So taking these in order, it's ineffective to bring children ages 10, 11, and 12 into the delinquency system because in order to have a determination of guilt or innocence, accept a plea, impose a disposition requiring treatment or services on a youth, that child has to be competent. And 10, 11, and 12-year-olds simply are not competent to stand trial. It's not surprising. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just simply too young. This leads to delay in implementing supports and services. What happens is there's an evaluation, they're found not competent, they're reevaluated 6 months later, and this continues in a cycle until they're old enough to be determined competent, and then many times we're talking years after when this behavior occurred. Second of all, it's not aligned with science. Our understanding of youth brain development has grown exponentially over the last decade. We know a lot more now about when and how connections to the prefrontal cortex develop, and that this development continues through the mid-20s. Children are not just little adults. Their brains are fundamentally different. In this context, treating children like children means we must intervene with a clear understanding of their lack of brain development and within the context of their family. And finally, it fails to address concerns in the context of the family. So children ages 10 to 12 are deeply reliant on their family systems. Any intervention to be effective has to include this broader lens. And the juvenile delinquency system just simply isn't set up to do that. It's not able to hold families accountable for their engagement in addressing the needs of the child, which is a critically important piece of this puzzle. There have been concerns raised about the ability to place youth in a facility, right? A young person whose behavior is serious and causes risk of harm to themselves or others. It's clear that this can be done outside of the delinquency system, both through a voluntary placement agreed to by parents or guardians or through a CHIPS placement. And I gave you a handout to demonstrate that in Hennepin County, we've actually been doing this for the last year. Since the spring of 2023, when we implemented a new policy that we would not charge children ages 10 to 12, and instead we would use a social service response. So as you look at that, you'll see that there were 152 youth under age 13 submitted to our office since January of 2023. 0 of those youth were ultimately directly referred to CHIPS. We made exceptions and charged 4 of those youth as we were trying to get this system set up, which quite frankly is why this delayed implementation is critical. And all 4 were found not competent and ultimately ended up in the county social service intervention bubble, right? And only 2 of those, yes. So this is not about dumping children into the CHIP system. We know that system also causes harm. It's about quicker, more effective interventions in the context of their families and improving outcomes and safety. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Chair Pinto?
Thank you, Chair. I'll just note that there are some complexities for the reason for the delay in implementation of the bill. But I do think this is a direction that we should go in. And in fact, I think we are an outlier among many other states in terms of having an age that is so low. But in any case, I'm happy to have a conversation. And I should note, I expect that there will be a cost relating to this. So the action today is simply to send it to public safety for their consideration. And then this will come back before our committee if, in fact, this is something that we are advancing. I'm expecting that to be the case. So for now, just a conversation, and I'd love to move on to public safety. But with that, we'll have a conversation. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Very well. We'll move on to member discussion and questions. I have Representative Zalesnikar on the list.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair Pinto. I appreciate listening to this, and I guess I would like your feedback and thoughts on, for the violent offenses. We're seeing things happen at younger ages that typically we didn't see with violent crime. And so whatever those items may be, a thought process of if that child is 10, 11, 12, doing something that's in a violent classification, your thoughts on where that child may be placed. Because what I'm hearing in the state is that we don't have resources for adequate placement necessarily. for what the options are for these children. So I'd love your feedback on your thoughts on making sure that there's a safe place. If this isn't the path, that what's been done isn't the proper path, then what a new path would be that would assure safety and the right programming for these children. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So,
Chair Pinto.
thank you, Chair, and thank you, Representative Lesnicar. And I think, as you're aware, I work as a prosecutor outside the legislature and have for more than 15 years, and dealing with felony crimes and violent crimes, and so certainly a concern. I will note right now, if we have, and you say things can happen at young ages, if you've got an 8 or 9-year-old, they're not being sent to the juvenile delinquency system, right? And so we want to make sure that we're addressing needs as best as we can. We know that when it comes to an 11-year-old, they look a lot more like an 8-year-old than they look like a 14-year-old. And so part of the reason for delay is to make sure that in the case that there is a need, for example, for secure confinement of some kind, right, that we have an opportunity for that, because that may well be necessary for some children, but to do so in a way that is trying to actually help get the child on the right path. I should say, as a prosecutor, one concern that I have is victim notification and victim rights, which is not something that's built into the child protection system. We want to make sure that that would be built into this. And that's a challenge right now if you have an 8 or 9-year-old. So hopefully actually would make things even better when you've got younger kids as well. So just that's a general comment regarding that, is that we want to make sure that we do this right. But right now we have this artificial age cutoff as well with that.
Representative Zalesnikar, any follow-up? Okay. Representative Daniels.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a request. I'm kind of trying to wrap my head around the age change, and is there data that either staff or some, and not now, but later on, that we could get showing the crimes that these younger folks are committing to get them to go to juvenile detention, and then where the violent crimes start? I mean, that's my fear, is if some of these kids are very violent, very young, but it'd be nice to have some data to know what we're looking at.
Chair Pinto.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Representative Daniels. And so, yeah, let's see what we can gather. We've got tremendous expertise among folks who've been working on this issue, and so maybe we can do is have them gather that for us and provide to you and all of us regarding some of those statistics and some of that understanding as well. But that's, yeah, good question.
Representative Daniels, any follow-up?
No, that's it. And this bill, I forgot, is it going to be laid over?
We're sending it to public safety.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Perez Vega.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Representative Pinto, for bringing the subject up to matter. And I know your expertise, as you stated. I just want to push the agenda towards having a focus on emotional behavior adjustments. I work with these youth. I've spent majority of my time in my teens working with younger kids as my first job that had been incarcerated by the time they were 12 years old. And the continuance, and I think about even within our school district in St. Paul Public Schools with Journeys Secondary School, which is, I believe, on the border of our district. We need to find opportunities to fund those emotional behaviors instead of funding the facilities that have no windows for a 10 to 12-year-old, let alone the kids that are 13 and up, that have been stuck in these juvenile detention centers awaiting a hearing. I mean, I visited Ramsey County Juvenile Detention just a couple months ago with our authors in the Senate to see how we're trying to decrease that number and really recognize that we need to focus on the agendas of dealing with trauma. If we look at the numbers of homelessness across the state and how that affects these kids, if we look at the cutting of social services and opportunities to bring nutrition to our kids, the reality is that that emotional behavior is going to turn around. So I really want to push towards this committee to recognize on supporting this, going towards a public safety, so that we find those avenues to have more opportunities for folks in the social service work in more structured places to learn skills and for those kids to gain confidence and to have healing. These are kids, 10-year-olds. Let's think about 10-year-olds, 11, heck, even a 16-year-old is a kid. But you know what? By the time you're in high school, you got to figure out how to adjust so that you can get closer to that 18 age so that you're not looking at a adult penitentiary. I want to talk about the 10, year-old limit to 12-year-old, I think that this is a fantastic opportunity for us to focus on, like I stated, funding, emotional, and behavior places so that these kids can have a second chance. Thank you.
Representative Hicks.
Thank you so much, Chair Pinto. And I'm just going to piggyback off that. Many of you know that children's mental health is an area that I'm really passionate about, along with Representative Hansen. And so we need to think about the school piece, but I would also, really ask us to consider where are the intensive mental health treatments for kids that aren't fitting into our traditional system. We asked the department to give us numbers about how many kids we're sending out of state, and we have those numbers now, and it's very expensive to support children with significant mental health needs out of state. It's really, really expensive, and it's costing the counties a lot of money. So to piggyback on my colleague here, we can't just think about the criminal justice lens of this. We have to think about the mental health lens, because as my other colleague says all the time, pay me now or pay me later. We are paying for it. We're just paying for it in a different place, and we're spending a lot of property tax dollars and county dollars to do it. So just wanted to throw that in there.
Chair Pinto, I'll kick it to you for final comments.
Thank you. Thanks so much, members. And I just, I totally am grateful for those comments about helping our kids get on the right track, and to these incredible testifiers as well. I know that they have a lot of powerful thoughts in response to some of the points made as well. And this is going to be an ongoing conversation. I do just want, I'm so glad we have this handout as seeing like this is actually in use in our state's largest county and going really well. And so members, I'd ask for your support now to send this to public safety. And then, as I say, do expect this to be back before us as we assess costs and continue on from there. Thank you, Chair, and thanks, members.
Certainly. So with that, Chair Pinto renews his motion that House File 3671 be re-referred to the Committee on Public Safety as amended, excuse me. For those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The motion prevails, and Chair Pinto, you are on your way.